And what's funny is I remember it was the 15th of January 2024, and I was skiing, and I received a DM from Pierre's assistant, and I received that message on Instagram. I'm having a look at that message quickly, and when I read it, I read, "Hi, I'm looking for a photographer in F4." When I read it, I read F4, so I was like, "Oh, cool! It could be a cool little contract and experience in French Formula 4." And I think a few days later we call, and he's telling me like, "Hi, I work for Pierre Gasly now, and I'm looking for a photographer for this season." What seems crazy is Pierre is my first client as a freelance photographer.
Hello and welcome to Art in the Paddock, conversations with Formula One photographers. My guest today is Grégoire Trouchet. Grégoire is the personal photographer of Formula One driver Pierre Gasly, and he tells us about his story and the unique path to get there, which is not the traditional motorsport ladder that most photographers go through. He also goes in detail about what it's like to work so closely with a driver and how the role of a photographer is evolving with the growing demand for behind-the-scenes content. This is my conversation with Grégoire Trouchet. Enjoy. Hello, Grégoire. Bonjour. Thank you for being here. This is a great pleasure to have you in my podcast. Good morning, good afternoon.
Hi. Yeah, hi. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invite, and I can't wait to tell a bit about my story so far.
You have a very interesting story, my friend. If you don't mind, let's get started on that because I was looking at your profile in LinkedIn and I was
Yeah.
shocked on how you got started. You had a couple of internships, right? You started in some hotels and restaurants, and you were doing the social media, the content creation for them. You started for a marketing agency, and then you got started in motorsport and all that. And then you jumped into the freelancing and working with Pierre. So tell me about that journey because it is quite unique.
Yeah, so actually when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I started the hospitality school in Geneva. It was like
Mhm.
mostly mainly a hospitality management school, so like to be a hotel manager or manager in hospitality. Um, but like after a few years in the school, I mean, it was only 3 years, but like I was like, maybe I'm not sure if I want to continue in that direction. And I was already taking pictures on the side as a hobby in like
Mhm.
small car events, or my dad has a few classic cars, so like taking pictures of the cars. Because I can't remember, but when it started, but I mean, I am a car enthusiast since a long time of classic cars, supercars, and race cars. So yeah, I was taking pictures of cars whenever I could on my free time during my hospitality school. I had several internships, as you mentioned, and my one of my last internships, I did it in a 5-star hotel in Geneva, and I was in the marketing department, so taking pictures for the hotel for their Instagram and all the other communication outlets. So, but even then, I was like not really happy with the studies I was in, and I knew I wanted to try and work into cars or motorsports. So
Mhm.
yeah, I was for my final internships to, let's say, get my diploma. I had to do a final internships of like 6 months, and I wanted to do it in cars or motorsports because my school was a bit more flexible, and they were saying that for the final internships, because it could be an internships leading to like a full-time job, you could
Mhm.
do it in something not in hospitality, so you could do it in a communication agency or something else. So me, I really struggled to find my final internships. I actually at the time
Mhm.
had an interview with Sauber to do an internships at Alfa Romeo F1 team in the
Mm-hmm.
partnership team. So
Yeah.
I was so happy to get that interview. And
Yeah.
but yeah, they didn't take me, so I was so pissed. I was like, oh my god, I missed
But
my shot to get into Formula One.
yeah.
And my brother was already working in F1, so it was really my dream to try and work in that environment. And actually, I tried to message anyone I could to try and find an internships in the automotive industry. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I did it with a woman called Megan Koller, who is based in Switzerland, and she's working for different garages. So yeah, I used to be at Cloud and Cars, which is classic car dealerships and maintenance garage in Gland. It's not so far from Geneva. We were based there,
Mm-hmm.
and she had several different, let's say, clients, as like Sébastien Buemi, for example. So I never really met Sebastian because when she was going on the races in WEC, she was going by herself.
Mm-hmm.
But I helped a bit while I was working for her for like Sebastian Instagram account. Like I was doing all the little I don't know how you call them. You know the things you put in stories to put like for example, a race you like P3 or like the results. I was basically
Yeah. Yeah.
making the template for all of these little
Okay.
things. So
Yeah.
I was already I was
So
having a
you were
first
working behind
foot.
behind the scenes. You
Yeah,
were not there yet at
exactly.
the races, but
No,
already getting involved into
at
the
that
content
time,
management.
exactly. At that time, I have never been trackside, I think. So as I said earlier, I love classic cars. So I went a
Mm-hmm.
few times with my father at Le Mans Classic as a
Oh
fan. So I
yeah.
was taking pictures
Nice.
behind the
The
fence,
fence.
basically, yeah, in the
Yeah.
fans area. It was
Mm-hmm.
always super nice. One of the best events, I think,
Yeah.
for classic car
Mm-hmm.
lovers, Le Mans Classic. But
Yeah.
I've never been at that time. I've never had the chance to go trackside in the photographer areas. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was my how I started with Megan in her communication agency, and because of her, I had my first trackside experience in Le Mans
Mm-hmm.
24 hours for the
Wow.
100th anniversary of that race. So it was pretty big race to to start uh,
Yes.
to start trackside.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
super nice because she brought me to that race. But I mean, we had a few clients like Clausen Cars was also sponsoring LMP2 team. So we had Sebastian and then Clausen Cars, but I was mostly there to just enjoy and try new things,
Yeah.
being trackside. So it was super nice. I just had my first proper camera was a Canon EOS R. So this was the first camera from the R
Mirrorless. Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
Exactly. With I think it was a 24 240. So it was not a professional lens. But honestly, I've done some of my favorite pictures with that setup from that race.
Mm-hmm.
I have one in mind, which is uh, it was raining like during sunset with the
Oh.
NASCAR that was racing at that time,
Yeah.
uh, overtaking two Porsche or something like that. But yeah,
Nice.
it was really a really, really cool first experience as a trackside photographer.
Yeah. That's great. What a nice experience to go to the Le Mans on their 100th anniversary as your first time being trackside. That's great. Now, tell me,
Yeah, it was amazing.
how did you go from there to work with Pierre? How was that transition? How did you get and there?
So that final internship was in 2023 until September. And I started with Pierre early 2024. So after that internship, I got my diploma from my hospitality school. I wanted to go freelance and try being a photographer in the automotive industry. I didn't have fixed plans. I was like, probably wanted to work into historic racing and yeah, different clients, but I didn't have any fixed plans. And it's a bit crazy, but I received early 2024 a message on Instagram of Pierre's assistant asking me if I was free because they were looking for a photographer um,
Hmm.
for the season. And what's funny is I remember it was the 15th of January 2024, and I was skiing. I was skiing, and I received a DM from. So he's called Pierre as well,
Hmm.
Pierre's assistant, and I received that message on Instagram. And as I mentioned, I was skiing, so I'm having a look at that message quickly. And when I read it, I read, "Hi, I I work." What was it saying? "Hi, I'm looking for a photographer in F4." When I read it, I read F4. So I was like, oh, cool. It could be a cool
Hmm.
little contract and experience in French Formula 4.
Yeah.
And then he basically in his message asking me if we can have a call. So I'm like, yeah, of course we can have a call. And I think a few days later we call and he's telling me like, hi, I work for Pierre Gasly now, and I'm looking for a photographer for this season. And I'm like, wait, that's not what I read. And then actually it was written Formula One, but I don't know why it was something that
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine to achieve that early in my career. Because
Hmm.
what seems crazy is Pierre is my first client as a freelance photographer. So it's quite crazy. But
Yeah.
I said, obviously, yes. Um, At the time, I didn't know if they only messaged me, and I knew it later. But apparently, he texted like 10 different people. So it's even more. I'm even more happy now
Wow.
that I had
Yeah.
the job. But how he knew me is because so my brother was already in F1. I didn't know Pierre's assistant before, but we were following each other on the social media on Instagram. And my brother already knew Pierre Gasly personally. So I'm sure this helped a bit because he knew me. Yeah, we we had that call. I told them I was free and ready to take the job. So they took me.
Yeah.
I think I started 2 weeks later with Pierre in Barcelona.
Yeah.
He had a private checkdown with an old Alpine F1.
Hmm.
And that was my first day. I remember the first picture I took for Pierre is actually one of my favorite. Is like his racing suit and hanging
Yeah.
just before the day. So it was a special moment, and I mean I think they liked what I did, so they kept me since then.
How, like, they saw your Instagram photos, right? And they liked
Yeah.
what they saw in there. You started taking pictures. You say you like cars. Your father has classical cars. But how did you start developing your own style, your own technique? Did you study anything related about photography, or just by practicing? How did you learn your, because you have very different styles and beautiful panning and artistic shots,
So I would say my brother has a big I don't know how you say it, but a big influence in
influence?
yeah. My brother has a big influence in my style and in my um, in my work in general. I think obviously he's six years older than me, so I'm really inspired by his career and journey, and by
Hmm.
his style. So he always helped me developing my photography in general. So I would say learning um, trying to replicate a bit what my brother has done and what he's doing. But
Hmm.
also, I would say this is my third season with Pierre, and now I've done 52 races in just over 2 years, which is basically
Yeah.
all of the races. So by shooting so much every weekend and trying new things, trying new angles, because the garage is always the same. So you want to try new things, new lenses, new angles, new techniques. I would say you develop yourself and develop your style quite fast in that situation.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say those two factors are the main
Okay.
ones.
I have to ask you, because you and your brother work for F1 drivers. What
Yeah.
did your mom and your dad give you for breakfast? What's the secret there?
Yeah, honestly, it's even us when we think about it, it's quite crazy that we are both in F1 working for two drivers that are best friends together. So
Yeah.
it's quite
Yeah, that's
it's quite
crazy.
crazy. It's we are quite proud of it. Obviously, it's a chance,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's
Do
there's
you
no
and your
really
brother
y-
do you and your brother get together when you're having a few drinks and say, "Hey, bro, look where we are," you know? Just stop and think about it.
yeah. It's I sent you that picture when you messaged me about my
Oh, yeah.
favorite pictures of Pierre, Charles, my brother, and me in a plane. It was I
Yes.
think it was 2025, 2024 maybe,
Mhm.
between Qatar and Abu Dhabi. It was a plane to Dubai, and it was the first time we were all four together.
Mhm.
And my
That's
father
great.
was like, "You guys need to do a picture because yeah, it's
Mhm.
quite. This picture is really meaningful for me." And it's really
Yeah.
when I look at that picture, I'm like, wow, it's quite crazy. I was 2 years ago, I was dreaming about working in F1. Even in the future, for me, it was not achievable. It's so crazy.
When I
I still don't believe it sometimes when I'm with Pierre
Yeah.
and I see like when we meet fans, for example, and the fans are completely crazy about meeting Pierre. Even sometimes I get emotional. Like I'm not crying, but
Yeah.
I get emotional and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
whoa, I'm working for that guy and it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
get it.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I to be honest, when I was looking at your pictures, immediately when I saw that one, I was like, wow, this is so meaningful. Like, must be one of your favorite shots, favorite photos, because, yeah, like you say, it's you and your brother and two very famous drivers who are friends with each other. It's just an amazing photo. So, congratulations
Yeah.
on that. And yeah,
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Okay. So, I wanted to ask you also about, as we were just saying, the journey that you had is very different than most of the other photographers, myself included, that we usually follow a path of shooting, lower categories. And, the number one question that we probably you get as well in your DMs from Formula One fans or aspiring Formula One photographers is how do I make it into Formula One? Right. So the usual response that we give is just like Formula One drivers, they start from the lower categories and they build their career until they make it to the top. For photographers, usually say the same thing. Start at your go-kart track or other categories, get experience in IndyCar or IMSA, or I mean, I'm not saying they're lower categories, but it's just practicing as a fan and then trying to get credentials and all that, but you went through a very different path. And like you said, you were very lucky to get your first customer, first client as a freelancer, being an F1 driver, right? But you also had the other part. I mean, you had the technique because you had been doing photography. But the other part that I see that is very important in your career is being able to manage the content side, knowing how to manage Instagram, you know, what to post. Like you were saying, you were managing it for Buemi, even like behind the scenes. But how do you think that part of knowing how to manage social media has been good help for you? How much has that helped in your career so far?
Yeah, I think there's nothing crazy. I think about, I mean, fans nowadays, they want to see behind the scenes of what the drivers do when they are not racing. So it's basically posting, yeah, posting when we do activities with the driver. Because I'm not only following Pierre on the track, I'm also a lot with him outside the racetrack. So it could
Yeah,
be in the evening after the day at the track, could be between races in Europe. I'm quite a lot with him because we have a lot of back to back, and I'm also traveling quite a lot with him in the plane. So um, yeah, it's like, I think it's, yeah, as I said, the fans want to see a lot of behind the scene. So it's it's mainly posting what we do in a day and what the driver do. Um, and there's nothing so crazy about.
and what does get more engagement from the fans? Is it the photos trackside, or is it the photos when he's not in the car?
I would say it's a bit of both, but the photos out of the car maybe has more engagement nowadays. Um, I don't know if I can call them the new fans, but I mean the
Yeah.
younger generation of fans
The
want to
drive to
see.
survive.
Uh, yeah, maybe it's, yeah, the fans from Drive to Survive, or that discovered F1 on social media, or they want to see behind the scene and what they can't see on the team's Instagram or on F1 Instagram. So I remember, for example, we posted that video on Team Gasly, that reel. It was just Pierre and Charles going to the Hungarian GP, I think. But it was during test after the race. We had like private Pirelli test. And
Yeah.
when we were going to the track in the morning, at the red light, we saw Charles next to us, and I was behind Pierre in the car, and I just took my
Yeah.
iPhone, filmed the interaction the two driver had, and they had like a little laugh, and then Charles overtook Pierre uh, to go in front of us in the traffic,
Yeah.
and I just filmed that with my iPhone, and we posted on the day, and I think we had like more than 5 or 6 million views, which was
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
And the fan really loved it. So
Yeah.
they love to see, let's say, I don't know if we can say secret stuff, but not secret, but like, yeah, behind the scenes
Yeah.
of what drivers
And
do when they are not at the
and
track and not behind cameras.
I I think that is precisely the effect that Drive to Survive has brought to the sport. I mean, a lot of people criticize Drive to Survive. I love it. I've seen all the seasons, and I understand, the critics, because they say, well, it's a lot of fabrication. They make a lot of drama and all that, but it's something that, as fans, myself, I didn't get to see before, right? And a lot of, like you
Yeah.
said, the new fans, they see that and they want to see more of that. And your role being an F1 driver photographer helps to bring all those behind the scenes things that they don't get to see otherwise. But how? I mean, you have to also maintain a balance, right, between what you share and what you don't share. So how do
Yeah.
you do that? How do you maintain? How do you realize what is good to share, what it's not good to share?
Obviously, So I do have access to Team Gasly Instagram account, but I'm not the only one posting. We also have someone like a social media manager
Hmm.
um, posting on that account. So I would say before posting something, I obviously need to have approval from Pierre or Pierre's manager or Pierre's assistant. Um, Now I've been in the team for more than 2 years now, so I mean, they trust me on what I post. But when I have doubts or yeah questions, I ask them before. Um, as I said, because I've been in the team now for 2 years, I know a bit what we need to post or what we can't post.
Hmm.
I would say, yeah.
Also, from a technical side, being in the inside the pit box, for example, having access to the cars, I saw that at the end of last season, because of the regulation changes, you were able to post some aspects of the engine and on the inner side of the car that you're never able to share, right? And you say, well, now
Yeah,
this car is sold, doesn't matter, so you were able to share that. So you have a lot of that information that you have to be very careful as well.
exactly. Yeah.
So something else that I was wondering is, you being a freelancer and working for an F1 driver, how do you decide on the weekend what you're going to shoot? Because, for example, the agency photographers or anyone working for a magazine or publication, they get the list of shots that they're going to have to take. They make a decision on the important aspects according to any duels between drivers or whatever. But yourself is a different case. So how do you plan your weekend? How do you plan what you're going to be shooting?
So me, it's I'm a lot more free than other press or agency photographers, which in a
Hmm.
way is very cool. I get to
Yeah.
I get to go wherever I want basically, and I plan a bit
Yeah.
myself what I want to do. Um, but sometimes, obviously, I need to shoot, for example, Pierre sponsors on the helmet. So he has personal sponsors that are not related to the team. So me, I'm providing pictures to those sponsors. For example, Pierre, you can see on his helmet, he has like Sonic and Integra Connect, like in the front. And these are his personal sponsors. And I get to shoot pictures during the weekend for them as well. Um, and also his other sponsors, like Pierre is now a Reebok and Lacoste ambassador. So usually when he wears shoes in the paddock, I mean, not even in the paddock every time, is Reebok. So I always shoot for them as well, for their
Yeah.
use on social media. And I shoot for Pierre's website, for Pierre's Instagram, obviously. So sometimes Pierre tells me, "Oh, I saw that shot from last year," or I don't know, could I have a similar shot, or yeah, things like that. But usually I'm quite free, and I get to decide myself where I want to go, which
Okay.
I would say is a big luxury. I don't know how you
Yeah.
say it, but it's a bit it's quite nice to have this freedom to try spots and go, yeah, go where you want.
Yeah.
The thing also, what's quite different for me compared to other photographers is, for example, on the Sunday at the end of the race, most of the photographers, they go to the podium, and I almost never go to the podium because I focus on Pierre. So usually I'm always going to the Parc Fermé, and sometimes I'm alone. So I get to shoot the other drivers coming out of their cars,
Yeah.
and sometimes the Parc Fermé goes until the pit lane entry. So usually on every track, you can be next to the fence in the pit lane entry, so you could get very close to the drivers getting out of the car. So these are some quite cool shots, I would say.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of photographers do during the weekend.
So you said you don't go often to the podium.
To the
but
podium. Yeah,
yeah, but he's doing much better this year. And now, just I'm gonna take a quick detour here.
yeah,
I want to talk about Brazil 2024. I was there, and that was crazy. So tell me
yeah.
about that weekend. Tell me about that Sunday.
Honestly, Brazil 2024 was, I think, the best day ever in my life. It was honestly a crazy, crazy day. I don't know if people
Yeah.
watching remember, but we had the qualification canceled on the Saturday because of the rain.
Hmm.
So when we came back to the hotel on Saturday, we even at 7:30 we didn't know what time was the qualification on Sunday morning. So I think by 8 or 8:30 we had the confirmation that the quali was. I don't. I'm not sure, but it was very early, like around 8 a.m. or I don't know,
Yeah.
something
Yeah. It
super
actually
early.
started, and some fans were still outside because they had some issues with
Yeah,
the opening the doors.
it was crazy. So yeah, even I think we left the hotel. So usually what I do on the weekend is I sleep not too far from Pierre's hotel, and in the morning I come to the track with him. So on the Sunday, when we leave on the Sunday evening to the airport, I come to the track with my luggage. So we came with our luggage to Pierre's hotel. I think it was still night. There was no light because I
It's
think it
still
was
dark.
5
Yeah.
a.m. or yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And we arrived at the track, I think, at around 6, if I'm not mistaken, but around 6 a.m. It was so early, and Pierre did the quali in the morning. I think the quali didn't go in our side. I think we qualified like P13, something like that. And in this chaotic race with a lot of it was safety cars and red flags, and
Yeah.
Pierre managed to climb to P3 with all of that, and Esteban was in. I think he was in P1 when we started after the red flag, and then Verstappen overtook him, and we finished both cars, both Alpine, on P2 and P3. Honestly, it was insane. I was in the final 10 laps. I was like starting to realize what could happen. Um, and yeah, it was crazy running to the
Where
end of the
were
pit
you?
lane for the.
Where were you watching
Uh,
those final 10 laps?
so in 2024, I didn't have the trackside accreditation, so I was in the hospitality in Pierre's room with Pierre's assistant, a coach, and girlfriend, and we were watching on the TV. And then the final
Okay.
laps, I was in the garage, in the Alpine
Hmm.
garage. And then I remember when there was the checkered flag, we then ran to the end of the pit lane
Yeah.
to get the shot of Pierre coming out of the car and then jumping on the team, uh, on the mechanics and on us. So it was
Yeah.
it was crazy. But I remember it was so crazy that even when I look back now, my shots, I don't know what I did with my settings. I was like ISO 5000. I was completely,
Yeah.
it was completely
Yeah.
crazy. So I was kind of
Yeah.
ruining the shots, but I mean, I still had a few cool shots
Hmm.
from the podium celebration. And what's crazy, I mean, what's a bit, how you say, what's a shame is it's a shame is we had to leave quite early because we had our plane at maybe 8:30 or 9. So we did
So
the
you
f-
didn't have
the
time
the
to
quick
celebrate.
no. So yeah, we did the team photo in front of the garage, and then we left straight after to
Wow.
the airport. I remember I was alone in my flight, so I was first time ever I take alcohol in the plane. So I was like, I need to celebrate. So I took a little champagne glass to celebrate the podium. But it was, yeah, still today thinking about that day was completely crazy. Hopefully more
Yeah.
podiums in the future.
Yes. He has done great, and I was there that weekend, and man, that was such a beautiful race. I mean, Max did one of the best races he has done, but I was so happy to see Pierre and Esteban at the podium, and with the rain and everything. I mean, it was crazy a little bit, but yeah, it was an amazing race.
Yeah.
So now, talking also about Pierre and how you've been working with him, being so close to him, I'm pretty sure you have also developed a good friendship. So how do you
Yeah.
maintain the professional side versus also the friendship?
Um, yeah. So as people know, Pierre is really a funny guy and very very kind. So he's
Yeah.
since the beginning he was. I think he trusted me since almost day one, and we're quite close since the beginning, um, which is something amazing. And I think I showed him that I'm quite serious, and yeah, that he can trust me. So we've of course we have sometimes when where we can laugh and joke about things, but he's still a Formula One driver, one of 22 Formula One driver, and it's like it's a big deal, you know. It's not we are not on. I mean, I have respect for these guys, but we are not in lower categories, and it's quite serious. So
Yeah.
obviously, we need to be serious in some moment. I would say like before the race or before quali. Um, yeah, he need to focus and need to focus on his job. So I would say
Yeah.
it's quite natural to me to be serious in my job and to do the best I can to not disturb him and do the best I can.
So what you said about Pierre, it's so true that I mean, I'm just one of the many photographers there in the paddock, right? And some drivers, they don't like, being photographed when they're arriving, and they get actually annoyed. But I have to say, in my personal experience, the few times that I got to be very close to Pierre, either that I was just myself or just hi Pierre, he always returns a smile. And I have some very nice photos of him in the paddock. He's always such a nice guy. Not because I'm interviewing you, but he's always been, yeah, very, very nice guy. And also, now that we just talked about being part of the team, how does that work? Like being part of the team, you work for Pierre, but what kind of relationship do you have with the team?
So I have a very good relationship with the team, especially the guys in the comms department. So like the social media guys and photographer and videographer from the team, but also the mechanics. I know them quite well now because I've been, as I said, in the team for over 2 seasons now. So I know the team members quite well. I'm not part of the team on the races. I'm never working for the team. I'm only my work is only going to Pierre. Um,
Okay.
but sometimes I mean I can do mistakes like not being in the right place, for example, or like so if I need a shot that I missed, or we also always help each other, even if they need a shot that I did and they were not there, or we always help each other. I mean, I'm not working for them, but we're always here to help. We are in the same team, even if I'm not in the team. I don't know
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, they are very very cool to me. I mean, I'm not part of their team, but I'm very free because I think they trust me as well now. Um, as you said, I get to see a lot of things, like the car when the car is open, or see things that people should not see. But I've never had problems. I mean, I've obviously signed a paper when I started with Pierre,
Yeah.
saying that I'm not able to share certain things. But yeah, I mean, for me, it makes sense to be serious, as I said earlier, in my job, and yeah. focus on what I'm supposed to do. Try not to
Mhm.
disturb anyone, and yeah, everything goes in the right direction.
Just want to go back to what we were talking earlier. Can you remember any other like fun experience that you had recently?
Me and Pierre recently, we do so much that I forget.
I
I
see your
forget.
photos when you're riding a scooter with him and having a lot of fun, man. Like you have a lot of fun in your work, in your job. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm enjoying a lot my time with him. But yeah, I would say, as I said earlier, Pierre is always laughs and always jokes. So most of the time we're having an amazing time. Even when he's doing, for example, the track run, um,
Yeah,
I could be cycling next to him to be able to
yeah,
take pictures of him during the track run. So these moments are always some very nice moments. The drivers usually do the track run or track cycling on the Thursday when they
yeah,
finish all their meetings with the engineer and stuff and seat feet. And so usually on the Thursday afternoon or evening, Pierre is either running or cycling the track. But for example, in Suzuka, he ran the track. So when he runs, I'm following with a bike and I'm shooting him during the track run. When he's cycling, I'm not really able to to follow.
to catch up.
I
Yeah.
could take a bike, but he's going too fast. So what's good
Yeah.
is when he's running, I can uh, go further on the
Get
track
ahead.
with the
Yeah.
bike, and then stop, take pictures, and then catch them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's always, I would say, always always very nice to be around Pierre because he's always in a good
But
mood and laughing, and so.
what about any moment where he had a tough weekend? Do you remember any weekend where he was not the usual happy Pierre?
So it could be crazy to people, but I've when I'm has always been in good mood when I've been around him. I mean, his last year was very tough. It was one of the hardest season for him and the team.
Yeah.
But even in the tricky situations, he was always trying to smile and be in a good mood. So I would say I've always been quite surprised in a positive way uh, about Pierre. Like he's always been very optimistic and motivated
Mhm.
to give the best out of him.
Great.
He's
Yeah.
really
Great to
quite
hear.
impressive in that.
Yeah.
Quite impressive, yeah.
So, if we wanted to talk about one of your photos,
Also thought about it earlier. I don't have. I mean, I can't show pictures of that moment because it was super private. But before working in F1, I had the opportunity to shoot for Jean Todt wedding, which
oh,
was quite crazy in 2023. And I can't share any pictures of that because it was super private in Geneva. And there
mhm.
was Felipe Massa and Stefano Domenicali. But he wrote me like on a little paper. I don't know if you can see. He
Yeah,
wrote me a message in French like thank you. He wrote me thank you for Grégoire. Thank you for having immortalized how you say having photographed this memorable journey. And he
yeah,
signed Jean Todt with
that's
like the date. So that's quite cool as well.
all right. So, Gregoire, so I asked you also to
Yep.
send me one of your recent photos that you really liked, and then you can describe this photo to everybody. And for those that are only listening, this is a photo from the Bahrain test at night, and I'm gonna let Gregoire describe it.
Yeah, so that photo of Pierre, as you said, was during a Bahrain test. Um, it was obviously, as you can see, a slow shutter. So I think it was 125 of a second. And the reflection we see on the ground is from the one of the lakes in Bahrain. You have, I think, two or three lakes around the
Yeah,
track in Bahrain, and it's quite cool to play around with them during the night to get the reflection of the lights. Um, there's also some cool shots of the fountains that you can have, but on that picture you cannot see the fountain. So I really like this picture because as you can see, the reflection on the water looks like the French flag. So with Pierre on the right and the French flag on the left, is I quite like this picture, and I think it's one of my favorites so far from this season.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it's a beautiful shot, and that's precisely something that I've also been trying to convey in these interviews is how the minds of the photographers work in terms of making the picture before it happens, right? So you're always seeing the environment, the backgrounds, the lights, and you're building the photo in your mind before you take it. So here you saw the lights, you saw the French flag, and you said, "This is the shot that I want to take." Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's often like that. Even obviously you get even more me, as I'm quite new in F1, and you have some photographers that already came on your podcast that are very talented and are in F1 since so long. So obviously I get inspired a lot by these guys. But I also try and get new things. I also have one of my favorite pictures from last year from Baku. So this picture in Baku was, so this bridge is new and it goes over the track just after turn one. So what the track you can see here is just after turn one. And I saw that bridge with the windows on the floor. I was like, oh my God, there's so many possibilities
Hmm.
that you could do. And what's crazy about that shot is, so it's Alexander Albon. I think it's during a practice session. I'm not sure which one. But if you zoom on that picture, you can see that the front left wheel is broken,
Oh,
and he
let me
just
see.
hit the inside of turn one. And during that time, he just retired. Maybe it was during quali actually, and he broke the front left
Yeah,
wheel because you can see the
yeah,
front right wheel is going straight, and the front
yeah,
left wheel
yeah.
is broken. So he just hit the inside of turn one, and he retired the car a few meters after. So that shot is quite crazy. Obviously, I was lucky to get to be at the right moment. You need to pay attention by with your ears and actually press before the cars arrive, and then it's actually it's quite a small slot, as you can see,
Mm,
to get the car in, and it's
yeah.
5,000 the speed,
Okay.
5,000 of a
And
second, F2, and ISO 800. And this one is from the other side of the bridge. Um, I actually did this shot before the other one, and I think I was one of the first one last year to do this shot in Baku, and it was so cool. Obviously, it would be super nice to have no people on the picture, but in some ways, it can also it's also part of it. And so this is pit lane exit. Pierre is going out of the pits, and my camera is literally on the ground, almost on the glass.
like,
I'm quite wide. I think I'm at 15 mil. Let me check. Oh no, actually I was at 28. But 28 millimeters. But yeah, this shot is also quite. People thought at first that it was Photoshop or like not real, and I can
yeah,
understand it because it's when you see that shot, you're like, how? But
yeah,
no, it's quite cool. It looks a bit like an aquarium, and it's always cool to try
yeah,
and find new angles.
yeah, yeah. It is. It is
But
a very cool shot.
as you said earlier, like photographers, they when they are at a spot, they know a bit what they want usually and what angle. Me, it's also I quite I know a bit what edit I want in the color. I mean, colors I want and contrast, and like for example, this picture is I really the people are very dark and
Yeah,
high
shadows. Yeah,
shadows. Yeah, to I mean, it was not like that. It was not as much on the original pictures, but I
Hmm.
quite like it to really highlight the car and
Yeah.
to focus on the car. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And you were saying you look at other photographers and what they have done and their experience and all that. And one of them, my good friend Darren, he told me once, like, it's very hard to make a new photo. Pretty much
Yeah.
everything has been done in the past, right? So you're just interpreting it in a different way. In your own
Yeah,
interpretation,
that's
you're
true.
doing something that has been done already before. Okay, so now this is what I call sprint race questions. So it's just 5 quick questions. And I know that you have a lot of freedom in what you choose, what equipment and all that, but do you have a favorite lens?
I would say I have a 85 1.4 from Canon.
Hmm.
I think it's the 85 is my favorite one.
Okay. What's the hardest moment so far that you've had to capture, either I don't know, crash or a situation, or maybe a difficult shot, something that took a little bit more effort from you to take?
Pierre had only a few crash um, last year. I think in 2024 he had zero crash, but in 2025 he had a few ones. Like for example in Jeddah, I remember I took pictures of him walking in the paddock after the crash with his helmet on the head, and it's always tough moment. And you at first I didn't really know if I should shoot it, but I'm like I'm here to work for Pierre and document
Mhm.
his career in F1. So I actually took those pictures, and they are ones of my favorite because yeah, obviously it was a tough moment just after a crash, but it's always cool to have the full story and document everything. Yeah,
Now
yeah,
that
yeah,
you mentioned this, it's something that sometimes people, I mean, the fans don't really understand the the job that we have. Because sometimes they say, "Well, leave the drivers alone." I mean, it was they just had a crash and they're not feeling well. But your job is to, like you said, document the moment, right?
yeah,
It's just part of
exactly.
a kind of a documenting what happened. It's not looking at the artistic or trying to get sensationalism out of the photo, out of the moment, but it's capturing, documenting what happened. Right?
Yeah, it's like so not related to Pierre, but it's like in Zandvoort last year with Charles when he had
Yeah.
that contact with Antonelli, I think it was. I was at the right moment, right time, and I took some pictures of him, of Charles in the dunes, and it's actually,
Yes.
as you said, documenting the moment, and but in a way, it's also very artistic. Because you
Yeah.
just have the driver in the middle of nowhere after the crash. So
Hmm.
it's always obviously respecting the driver. You're not gonna go in front of him like very very close, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you always need to respect the drivers. But as you just said, you are here to work and you're doing your job to shoot everything.
Now, you've done already 2 full seasons. What's your less favorite track to shoot at?
Um, I would say Silverstone. Silverstone,
Yeah.
Silverstone. If there's no rain, honestly, it's quite boring.
Yeah.
It's all flat. There's no. I mean, I love Silverstone for the history of that track,
Yeah.
but to shoot, there's nothing really. I think I'm not the first one maybe to say it because it's not so. It's yeah, it's not
Yeah.
so artistic, and I mean you can't go really artistic there, and
Hmm. Yeah.
it's gray, it's
No, like
flat, nothing in the
what
background.
what you said. I mean, if there is no rain, there's nothing interesting. And precisely last year, I was talking with one of my friends, and because we were planning to go this year to Silverstone, and say, yeah, you know what, I don't think it's a good idea. And I was looking at the pictures from last year, and the only picture that I really loved was one of Clive Mason that was showing all the dark clouds and everything. It was just like
Yeah.
an environment picture, nothing really of the action, but it was just showing how dark it was. And that was the only one that I really loved from that weekend. So, you know what, just to go and hope for the rain and take one photo. I don't know.
I mean, it rains a lot in the UK, so you're
Yes.
not taking so much risk if you want to count on the rain. But yeah,
Yep.
last year it rained, and I have some very cool shots I remember from that race in the rain. But yeah, I would say nothing to do with the my English colleagues, I will say. But but Silverstone is
Yeah.
maybe not
Yeah.
not my favorite one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that we miss a lot of shots. I mean, we take a lot, but we miss some important moments sometimes. Do you remember any particular moment where you said, you talked earlier about Brazil, that because of the emotion and all that, you probably missed something, but do you remember any shot in particular that you kind of regretted it afterwards?
Um, I mean, obviously, I'm missing a lot of shots. It
Yeah.
could be, yeah. Sometimes you even yeah. So even me, sometimes when I want to try new things, I try to do pannings on people, on drivers walking, or like. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, I want to get a more artistic picture compared to all the guys next to me. So I want to do a panning of Pierre walking or on his scooter, and I don't maybe have one particular one, but in Suzuka, I remember after the drivers parade, um, Pierre and George were walking um, to go back to the FI garage and then Paddock, and I was like, I'm gonna do a panning of them,
Yeah.
and the shot is cool, but Pierre is the only one in focus, and we can't really see that it's George next to him. So, like for example, I was like, it was it was cool to try and be more artistic and try new things, but I should have been in higher shutter speed and just get a more classic shot. So maybe this one I would say, um, yeah.
But it's also something very interesting what you're saying, because sometimes we're taking risks, right? You want to do
Yeah,
something different, and sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But if you always play it play it safe, yeah, you will get the shot, but it's gonna look just like everybody else's shot. Right?
yeah, yeah. True. Sometimes even more trackside. I mean, everyone want to get some panning shots, um, but it's always, I would say, especially when you have a short amount of time to shoot, or if you want to do different spots in one session, you're like, should I really go low? And then when you get one shot, you're like, yeah. So you want to stay even longer to get the perfect shot, but you also want to move. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
always thinking what's the best option. And
Yeah.
for me, I would
Yeah.
say it's even more tricky when you focus on one car and one driver. Because when you are trackside, when the car is in the pits, or I don't know, during a practice session, um, obviously I shoot every drivers, but my main focus is Pierre, so I need to get
Yeah.
the shot of Pierre. So
Yeah.
it's always, you need to decide, should I stay longer to wait for him coming out of the pits and get the perfect shot, or should I move? It's always tricky.
How do you stay informed about what's happening to Pierre, what part of the track he is, and all that? Do you have? Are you listening to the radio transmission from the team, or are you watching it on your phone, or just listening to the audio on the track?
I do have the radio of the team, so that's quite cool,
Okay.
and it's cool from them. Um, usually there's always one free for me at least. Um, so every time I go trackside, I take the radio. Um, I, I think it helps me a lot to know when he's boxing, when he's out on track, when he's coming back out. But the race, I mean, the race, I still take the radio for the race, but as every other photographers, I think I I watch the TV around the track when there's
Mhm.
some big screens to try and follow
Mhm.
and know
Yeah.
how many laps is remaining. So yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
the radio
Okay.
is more useful for the practice sessions and um, and the quali. Although actually on race day, what's cool so is when you have the grid access, when you go on the grid, the you need to go before the pit lane opens to be able to
Yeah.
get the shots of the cars arriving on the grid.
Mhm.
So when I have the radio, I can hear the engineer saying to
Go.
Pierre that he's going out.
Mhm.
And like he also tells Pierre, I mean, maybe 2 laps to the grid. So I know he's gonna go 2 times through the pit lane and then go to the grid. So that's also quite cool to organize myself and know where to
Yeah.
be.
Right. So the last sprint question: other than your brother, what photographer would you say you look up to, that you respect his work or her work?
I think most of the big photographers in F1, I mean, if they are here, they are very talented, and so I respect all of them honestly, and they are all an inspiration. But I love obviously Vladimir's work,
Hmm.
um, what he does for Red Bull since
Yeah.
so many years now. But I also love Florent Gouden from Deep
Yes.
PPI, Antonin
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Mario is a legend.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean Darren obviously. Darren is so talented and
Hmm.
always I'm always amazed when I see his pictures. So yeah, all these guys are
Yeah.
an inspiration.
All of them are on my top list as well. I respect all of them. So, Gregoire, I asked you to share your favorite photo and tell me why you picked this one and describe it so that also for the people that is not looking at the photo can understand it and why is your favorite.
Yeah, so this is a picture from Monaco 2024. Monaco 2024 was the first race of where Pierre scored points in 2024. So it was also a very good race for us. But this picture in particular is what you can see is Kika, so Pierre's girlfriend, and you can see Pierre in the reflection of her sunglasses. So how I did that picture was, I mean, I didn't plan it before. I was with Kika on the balcony. Monaco is quite different to other tracks. You have basically the hospitality, let's say, over the garage in the pit lane. So there's 2 levels. I mean, 3 levels. So the garage, just on top of the garage, there's the engineers there's a first balcony. And then on top, there's the hospitality with another balcony. I think we were on the first level, so where the engineers are, and we were just watching the pit lane and the track. And I was looking at some point, I looked at her and her sunglasses, and I see that reflection on her sunglasses. I was like, "Oh wow, we need to try to get that shot when Pierre boxes," because this was during a practice session. So I was
Hmm.
like, "We need to try and get a shot of Pierre when he boxes." So I told her, "Let you look in that direction, you don't move," and then
Yeah.
I I try and do the shots. And actually, this was first try, so I was
Yeah.
even more happy. And I think that the picture is just so cool. It looks fake, and uh, and yeah, for the story being Pierre's girlfriend and Pierre in the
Exactly.
reflection is even
Seen
cooler.
We've seen a lot of pictures in Monaco that get the reflections from the marshals, the helmets. But
Yeah,
this one, what makes it so different is it's not just any girl, it's Pierre's girlfriend. and you got the
exactly.
shot of Pierre in her sunglasses. So that's a very,
Yeah.
very special photo.
And this was, as I said, it was in 2024. So it was 4 or 5 months after I started with Pierre. So it was
Yeah.
still the kind of the beginning. In my
Hmm.
first 6 months in F1, I had the same setup. So it was,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, it was a Canon EOS R with, I think it was, I had a 2470 and I was doing
Hmm.
everything with that setup for the first 6 months in F1. So
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
with that setup, and yeah,
And that
it's still one
camera
of my
was not,
favorite ones.
I mean, like, as you said it, I mean, it was your initial kit, but that camera was not great, right? And you were still doing a full Formula One season with that camera.
Yeah, so I it's the quality is very nice of the
Yeah.
camera, but the autofocus and, yeah, high speed shooting was not so good. I
Yeah.
think I wonder if I could shoot electronic. Maybe not even, but yeah, it was not very easy to shoot with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as I said, I did my first 6 months in F1 with it. I was mainly in the garage in the hospice, so I was not really concerned about not having a longer length
Yeah.
uh,
Lens.
lens. But yeah, after I think it was during the summer, I bought a R6 Mark II. So it was a
Uh
big
huh.
step with the
Yeah.
higher higher speed.
Frames per
Um,
second and the
yeah,
good
exactly.
focusing
And then
system. Yeah. So that R6 Mark II is one camera that I also use. I also had the first one, the R6 Mark I, which was great. The R, DOS R, I think it was the first mirrorless that Canon had.
yep,
And
exactly.
at, at that time, when I read the reviews and all that, it actually made me think of switching to Sony. So I kind of waited to see if Canon made something better in the mirrorless after that one. I'm glad I waited, although Sony has very, very good cameras too. But yeah, I love my R3. I wish I had an R1, but that's my main body that I have, R3. All right. Anyway, so thank you so much, Gregoire, for the description of that photo. Now let's move just closing. And I'd like you to give just kind of not an advice, but what would you say to the many aspiring photographers that, as we said at the beginning, you took a different path, right? So that, I guess, is just to show that there is not just one path to make it into F1, but you had the passion, but you also had the preparation. And that is something that people have to understand. It's not just because you want to be, you really decide to be a Formula One photographer. Because I see a lot happening, like posts from people, especially on threads, that are trying to catch the attention of the teams. But then you look at their work and it's not really there, right?
Yeah, I think it's it's not. Yeah, it's very hard to get into F1, but I would say it's anything is possible. As you can see with my journey and my career so far. I would say if you have the talent, sadly there's not enough space in F1 to have all the talented photographers. So if you have the passion and you are really and you have the talent, I would say try and shoot as much as you can in other categories, or even as a fan in you go in as a fan in Formula One and try and shoot. I would I would say this is the best way to get into the sport. There's always other paths and other possibilities, but I would say that it's not the easiest one, but the most common one would be to shoot as much motorsport as you can in different categories and try and contact agencies or drivers. You could even try and contact, I don't know, maybe F2 drivers, F3 drivers, and start following them um, since their F2 or F3 career. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can get into the sport, and sometimes you get
Yeah.
lucky and get the opportunity like I did. So
Hmm.
you never really know. It can happen sooner than you think. For example, I have a friend in near Geneva that was working in ELMS and so LMP2 and endurance racing. He was doing a video, and his dream was to work into F1. He work His dream was to work in F1 and be a part of it. And he was like, "How can I do it?" And I'm It's always hard. You don't really know what to say to people. Actually, he got one experience with Alex Albon last year in Zandvoort, and basically it was a crazy story. But he met, he contacted Alex's girlfriend to shoot her on a golf tournament, and actually the tournament was a pro am, so Alex was there as well, and he was doing the competition with his girlfriend, and so he met
Yeah.
Alex and then had a chat with him, and in the end he managed to shoot for Alex for the Zandvoort Grand Prix. So he
Hmm.
was so happy, and he didn't continue with
Yeah.
him, but he made it to F1 and had at least one experience in that environment. So I would
Yeah.
say sometimes it comes sooner than you think.
Yeah, it's talent, but like you said, I mean, it's having the right opportunities, the right moment. It's not gonna get to you. You have to look for it, but also
Yeah,
understand the amount of work that is required. Right. So if you love it, if you have the passion, you have the talent, and if you can find the opportunity, it's open
yeah,
for
exactly.
everybody.
Uh, as you said it well. It's not as easy as people may think. Days are very very long, um, and usually when you work until very late, you still have to edit the pictures
Yeah.
so they can be published and used on the day. So it's very long days. You don't have that many breaks, and also yeah, actually I as you said, I in Europe I do fly with Pierre, so I have the chance to experience private jet, but I'm never in the fancy hotels. So I'm also it's also that I'm also in quite, let's say, small and
Okay. Regular
normal
people
hotels,
hotels.
regular hotels. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
it's not as easy as people may think, but yeah, it's
Okay.
still the dream. And every time you are in the paddock,
Yeah.
you're when it's your dream, when every time you're in the paddock is just something magical and
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay. Grégoire, merci beaucoup. This has been a really great conversation. I really loved. We didn't actually know each other personally. I mean, we
Yeah,
just I think you followed on Instagram, and I've seen you there. But it was great talking to you, and big congratulations to you and your brother. You are really good with what you do, and to your parents, they must be very proud. So big congratulations also to your parents, and thank you so much
thank you.
again.
It was Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was actually my first time ever um,
Really good.
attending and telling my story on a podcast or interview. So
Okay.
it was very very nice. Thank you for the invite, and yeah, hope to see you soon on the
In
racetrack.
Miami, I'll see you there. Yeah.
Cool,
All right. Thank you
amazing.
so much, Grégoire.
Thank you. Bye bye.